Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. The Canadiens get a 4-3 win over the Minnesota Wild here at home. A big win for the Canadiens. It's one that, they definitely deserved in this one. It's kind of a rare feat for the Canadiens to shoot 33 times on net on Jesper Wallstedt, which is exactly what you need to do if you're trying to win a game against a guy like that in the Minnesota Wild. A very solid team, obviously, in the top of the league right now in standings. So a big win for the Canadiens. They definitely deserved it. I felt like they kind of controlled the game throughout, the majority of it. There was definitely times where, Minnesota made Montreal pay, especially on the power play in this game. Tarasenko for the Wild had 2 power play goals there, so we definitely paid a little bit for the penalties that we took in this one, but I also didn't really feel like the game was called very well. Obviously, in the back half of that game, Lane Hudson had like 2 different penalties at the end of the game, both of which were kind of egregious calls. One of them, absolutely so. I mean, you could maybe argue the second one, but the first one, he got called for a trip in which a player literally just fell down near him, and like Lane Hudson literally never even touched or looked at him, and he just fell over, and Lane Hudson went to the box, and it neutralized the power play that we were in the middle of running. So unfortunate there, but yeah, despite the fact that the game was not very called well, I felt like the Canadiens did a good job of kind of taking it to the Wild, which is exactly what we needed to do, considering the fact that the Canadiens were pretty well rested coming into this one, and the Wild had just finished a game yesterday against the Toronto Maple Leafs in Toronto. So we definitely got the best of our efforts there against a team that was a little bit reeling from their game just the night before. So I felt like, generally speaking, we played really, really well. We held Minnesota only 19 shots on net the whole game. I felt like, there was one goal for Dobesh, the Brock Faber goal, that I felt like he could have had a little bit better luck with. It could have made that save. It just kind of squeaked through him. Obviously, there's traffic in front and all that stuff, and, things happen throughout the course of a game. But, you would have liked to have had a save there, but in general, I felt like, he made some good saves to make up for it, especially in the later half of that game, some power play stops and all that good stuff to make up for that miss. So generally speaking, a really good game here. It's really huge to get those 2 points and another regulation win as well. Obviously, it looked like it was going to overtime until the last few seconds there. The Canadiens made them pay, in that last last minute or so, with that extended zone time that we had there. So that was really big for us. Going into the goal scorers, obviously, Vladimir Tarasenko opens up the goal scoring on the power play. It's still an ongoing issue for the Canadiens to just stay out of the box and be a little bit more disciplined. And obviously, we pay. As I mentioned before, we played pretty well for our mistakes going to the penalty box in this one, whether we deserve to be in the penalty box or not. Especially with how high loaded offense this Minnesota Wild team is, they're going to make you pay on power play opportunities when they get that man advantage. So it makes sense that's how that goes. But who else but Philippe Deneau to get his first goal of the season, his first back with the Canadiens since I don't even know when, 2021 probably. So it's good to see him get on the score sheet. He makes do on like a secondary rebound opportunity. Gooley takes a shot on net and gets a point there. So it's good to see Gooley on the score sheet as well, getting his 2nd assist of the season. Josh Anderson gets his 6th assist of the season with a tip on that Gooley shot. And then Phil Deneau gets his first goal of the season on the secondary rebound there, puts it through the legs of Wallstedt to tie this thing up. So yeah, again, like good to see all 3 of those guys getting on the score sheet with points, especially Deneau. I feel like, maybe this is kind of opening the floodgates a little bit. Obviously, he's been really good, away from the puck on the face-offs and, defensively and all that kind of stuff. But it's good to see him get on the score sheet, especially scoring a goal. So it's good to see that happen there. And then Carrier gets his 5th goal of the season, a few minutes later, his 5th goal of the season, which makes him, that's his career high in goals there, which is kind of crazy. I feel like Carrier has been very offensively minded this season. I'm not sure if I like it or not, but, in this case, it works out well for us. He gets his 5th goal there. Gets a tip out front, too, which is even more bizarre, like that he's in a position to be tipping point shots as a defenseman. I just don't really understand how that's happening, but that's exactly what happened in this one. Demidov makes a nice pass over to Matheson. Matheson takes a shot towards the net, and it gets tipped by Carrier for his 5th goal of the season. Matheson gets his 18th assist there, and Demidov his 31st assist of the season. Another situation where, those are three guys that we love to see getting points on the board there, especially Demidov, in that Calder race right now. We'll have to see, where things shake out over the next 32 games, but 31 assists is really impressive for a rookie there. So like to see that for sure. And then, as I mentioned before, Brock Faber scores on one that I don't love in the second period for Dobesh. It was just kind of, one that I feel like you should maybe have a save on, but things happen. Obviously, in a winning effort, we can't be too upset about things like that. But and again, like it's you can also kind of chalk it up to the fact that he hasn't been playing all that much recently. Obviously, I forgot to mention it in the last video, but we did finally figure out a goalie situation. Obviously, Fowler being the one that gets sent back down, and I feel like that makes sense, right? Like it's he was never really supposed to be playing NHL minutes this season to begin with, so it only makes sense that he's the one that gets sent back down at the end of the day. But he played really well in the time that he was up here, I feel like. But now I feel like we've got our situation here. I feel like Montembeault is back to close to where he was at his peak last year and years before. So that it's good to see him getting there. And now that he's back in that kind of form, and Dobesh has still been playing well, it's good to see that we have that 2 goalie rotation coming back. It's just going to take time now for Dobesh to kind of get his legs back under him a little bit, I think, just because he hasn't been playing as frequently over the last few weeks, months, all that kind of stuff. So given the benefit of the doubt there. And then Lane Hutson scores his 9th goal of the season a little bit later. Just a nice, tons of pressure coming into this goal, like 2 minutes pretty much worth of pressure just, in the neutral zone and the offensive zone, just keeping pressuring the Wild there. Demidov gets a couple opportunities where he might have been able to take a shot, and eventually it looks like he's going to, and then he slips a nice little pass to the right side. Lane Hutson is wide open on that right side down by the goal line, and he's able to get a one-timer past Wallstedt for his 9th goal of the season. Demidov his 32nd assist of the season, and then Jaden Struble gets another assist there, back from injury as well, so good to see him back on the ice. He gets his 7th assist there, so a nice little play. Obviously, like we'd be saying a little bit different if we didn't score on that one, given all the chances that Demidov had to shoot there, but you got to respect it when it works out, and Demidov makes a nice pass and gets us back into the lead there, and we never get that lead. We never give the lead back to Minnesota there, so it was a nice goal. Lane Hutson, obviously, his 9th goal of the season. He's only getting better as things go along, and he just continued to be really, really impressive. So good to see him there. And then obviously more, officiating errors lead to the Canadians being on a 5-on-3. And then right after the 5-on-3 expires and it's a 5-on-4, Tarasenko puts home a nice rebound opportunity to tie things up again. And you can't really blame anyone on that one. There's a lot of, and some of it is officiating not being super amazing, but also just, it's tough to be, in a 5-on-3 situation with the Minnesota Wild and expect to, hold them off and hold the 1-goal lead there. So it only makes sense that he would score a goal in that situation. It's the 2nd goal of the game as well. He had the hot hand coming into it. So so he scores that one, and it's looking like as the rest of the clock ticks down that the Canadians and the Wild are going to overtime in this one, but the Canadians get a lot of last-minute pressure. I feel like the last, full 60 seconds to a minute and a half of the end of the game here was all in favor of the Canadians. They were just hemming the Wild into their own zone, and finally Cole Caufield was able to make good on that pressure. He gets a one-timer opportunity from a pass from Suzuki. Phil Deneau is out front of the net screening there, a perfect screen as well that allows this shot to go in. Cole Caufield makes a nice one-timer that goes right at the top right corner of the net with 15 seconds left in the game, and that ends up being the winner. The Wild do have a good chance, in the dying seconds there after that goal, but thankfully for us, it did not come to fruition that they would score on that one. But either way, just a clutch, this is exactly what Cole Caufield does, right? Like, he's a clutch player. He makes those clutch plays, and he does it again for us with 15 seconds left. Canadians fans know that, that's what we've come to expect from him. So it's really good to see him score another one like that. And it gives us, not only the 2 points there, but 2 points in a regulation win, which may or may not become super important, down the stretch here with, the Atlantic divisions being so tight here, having as many regulation wins as we can as well, having a nice, tiebreaker cushion there is going to be super important. So again, it's just a clutch moment from a clutch player, and it works out out for us in the end. It's his 25th goal of the season. Nick Suzuki breaks that 40 assist mark. He gets his 40th of the year on that pass to Cole Caufield. And then Lane Hudson gets his 43rd assist of the season on that one. So just incredible from Lane Hudson. It's exactly what he does. He's just, you can only say so many things about him. He's just incredible in the way that he's been playing this season. Obviously, he's probably not thrilled with the amount of times he had to sit in the box this game, but even so, he comes through with a pretty impressive effort. Another 2-point night for him. I feel like there's more nights where he's on the score sheet multiple times where than times where he's left off completely. So just a really impressive performance by him and pretty much all of the Canadians. I feel like all the way down the lineup, I feel like we had great performances by everybody. Kirby Dach obviously came back from injury in this game, the first time he's played since I think like November or something like that. So I felt like all things considered, for the first time back in a while, he played pretty solid. Didn't really contribute on the score sheet really, but I felt like he had some nice efforts there, some nice moves, some nice skates, all that kind of stuff. So it was good to see him just get back on the ice. And I think after a few games of just playing and getting some time under his belt here, I think he's only going to get better and get back to where he was. It was also interesting to see with Texier out of the lineup in this one that he got put up onto that top line. It was interesting to see if that sticks around. I don't mind that play at all. I think especially adding back some size to that Suzuki and Caufield line is an interesting play. It'll be interesting to see if they stick with that, or maybe they put Slavkovsky back up on that top line and then put Dach in place of Slavkovsky on the Demidov-Kapanen line. I feel like they've tried that, earlier in the season when Dach was still healthy, and it might it'll be interesting to see if they try to go back to that. But I also I wouldn't blame them at all if they decide they don't want to break up the chemistry that Kapanen, Demidov, and Slavkovsky have made this season, because they've been absolutely incredible ever since that line has been put together. So it'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have for this one. It's a huge win for the Canadians. It keeps them in the conversation, and of course that's the biggest thing right now, is we have to continue to be in that conversation. Unfortunately, it doesn't put us anywhere different in the standings. We're still in third in the Atlantic Division. Detroit, Tampa still ahead of us by a few points here. Detroit just 1 point ahead of us with 64, and then Tampa has just been unstoppable this year, especially as of late in the last month or so. They're at 66 points. They're 9-0-1 in their last 10, so it's going to be tough to catch both of those teams, obviously, but we just got to keep winning games and all that stuff, and keep putting ourselves in that conversation. Because again, we look back to the wild card, and the wild card's got Boston and Buffalo and the Toronto right behind them, with 58, 57, 56 points. So we have to continue to keep getting those points, because the guys playing behind us are not slowing down. And I've said that pretty much every video for the last couple weeks here, but it continues to be true that the Canadians have to continue to get points and continue to play well if they want to continue to be in a solid playoff position, because it only takes a couple of losses here for the Canadians to fall back in outside of the playoff position here. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got for this one. And a clutch performance from the Canadians at the end of the game there, and just an all-around solid performance against one of the best teams in the league is a really promising sign. They just gotta keep things going here, continue to play competitive games against every opponent that they can play against, and it's not getting easier for them either. Obviously, if we look towards Thursday, we got a game against the Sabres at home here. Obviously, the Sabres got the best of us a couple days ago, only a week ago or so. So this will be a good game for the Canadians to get revenge once again. It feels like that's kind of a theme as well for these Canadians, is getting destroyed by a team and then having to come back. We didn't necessarily get destroyed against the Sabres by any means, but it's an opportunity for revenge nonetheless. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have for this one. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you hopefully after another 2 points in a revenge win against the Buffalo Sabres on Thursday.